And we are rolling in, going free. Can everybody hear me okay? Let's make sure I have the right mic. And it looks like it is, so fantastic. And today is a very special day because we're going to have somebody on, Anna Speaks Out, who has been in the live chat of more than just a few. Audio Good says, Yiz, the great unifier who is here. Yiz, did you get my financial gift for you during your interview of the great Luke Mason, Imminent Rain, while you were live, or did it come late? I apologize if it came late. I tried to get it on time, but I was streaming at the same time. But I have to watch that interview. I'm sure it is totally epic. So hard. But we're going to be talking with Anna, and we're going to be finding out what does she do exactly on her channel. There's a lot of interesting stuff. And she's got an Instagram and YouTube and some other platforms. So you're going to want to be able to follow her on all of those platforms and love on and support her. And we're also going to talk about, hey, there's the great Melody Dawn. Great to see you. Has been a little while. And there's Mike. Hello to you. Pants is with us. Biospirit of the West. Matt is here. Of course, Azimuth Clark is here. Yiz says it came in 3 minutes late. My financial gift came in 3 minutes late. Oh, my gosh. Well, I'll try harder next time. I appreciate it, though, for you doing that interview with the great Imminent Rain. Western Kind Art is here. Wonderful to see you. So's Maverick. I'll be listening on my drive home with No White Guilt. Well, we're going to have a very exciting hour together. We're going to bring Anna forward in just a moment. We're also going to talk with Anna about this unbelievably discriminatory Auburn University. And we have an action item for you all to get started. If you all are on Twitter, but not driving right now like Maverick. There's Coconut. Great to see you. Cool Papa J Magic has pulled in as well. First action item of the day. You can head on over to my Twitter and you will find that I have retweeted the great Kate over there on this issue of the Black Student Union. Now, I'm sure it's not all of the members of this Black Student Union. It is only some of the members who participated in this, and they're at Auburn University. I wonder what members like this do at the other similar student unions at universities and high schools, junior highs and the rest, probably elementary schools now as well. What some of the members do that constitutes the advocacy for their people. But in this particular case, we have Auburn Black Student Union produces a list of racial slurs for white people, according to many news outlets. And I understand that Auburn naturally is claiming that, no, it has nothing to do with the university. And we'll talk about that. But they discovered the 7 pages of 250 anti-white racial slurs. And of course, if this were the reverse, there would be outrage. Students would be expelled, and it would be on their permanent records, and they would have a hard time getting jobs. Their lives would really be undermined. Nothing will happen to anti-whites, of course. So there's nothing silly about this sort of thing, nothing trivial about it. But before we get there, we have a much more interesting place to start. We'll probably start with Anna. We'll talk with her for a while about some of her things. In the middle of the conversation, we'll take a look at the Black Student Union at Auburn, and then we'll return to what Anna does and the kind of videos that she makes and the topics she covers. And we're going to begin right now with Anna introducing herself to all of you. And here she is, ladies and gentlemen. Anna, great to have you on. Anna Speaks Out. It's the famous Anna Speaks Out with the aquatic theme behind her. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm really excited to be here. This is a big honor. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Well, please, if the folks in the live chat could tell me the audio for Anna and my audio, are they about the same? Are they very different? Which is higher, which is lower? And I'll attempt to work with it. But otherwise, Anna, if you could right now, just tell folks, hey, who you are and what really you do on your platforms and where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube as Anna Speaks Out. I'm also on Rumble as My Thoughts and Songs, because originally I had a different YouTube channel that was closer to that name, but I'm just using Anna Speaks Out now. And I'm on Instagram as My Thoughts and Songs and Twitter as Anna Speaks Out, but I'm active on Instagram. I'm on there every day. Yeah, and I started on YouTube in 2019. Just wanting to, like, when Trump came into office, I saw all these people, in an uproar about it, and I was like not into politics at all at that point, but I was just so curious, like, what's going on? Why is everybody so angry? So I started looking into it, and I suddenly realized how the mainstream media tells very different stories than, like, if you see the whole entire clip of what the person actually said. Some people call it a spin, and I was like blown away because I didn't realize at that time it was like 2017. And so, yeah, that just kind of snowballed into just discovering what the matrix, as some people call it, that we're in, and how unreal a lot of stuff that you hear actually is. And I wanted to see what the truth was about things, so I just was constantly researching what's going on in the world and giving my thoughts on it. Basically.
Well, isn't that fascinating? Yeah. That's really fascinating. So many folks, and thank God you're still here. So many people became interested in their world, in their environment, in politics, sociopolitics, when Trump came to power. Isn't that something? This is what we've talked about quite a little bit, is what Trump actually meant. What Trump did or didn't do is secondary. That's another conversation. But what he meant to many, many scores of millions of Americans and really people around the world, and what it did for them in their lives. Let me ask you this. Did you have any negative consequences of your support, I guess, of Donald Trump and or policies or promises he made? And at the same time, I guess also you could answer, did you have any positive consequences? Like, did you have some folks say, oh, I'm never going to have anything to do with you? And did you have others say, I'm going to love you forever? How did it play out for you?
Yeah, I basically had some of each. Like my older sister, for example, was diametrically opposed to me in pretty much everything. So that was a struggle. I had a friend who I had known since I was like 13 years old. We stopped being friends because of politics. Haven't spoken since, really. But then I also made new friends who were like really cool people. We actually started like a group channel together. I went to Philadelphia to go to a rally that one of them spoke at. Like, it was amazing.
Wow.
We've kind of drifted apart part, but it was a really cool for a while. Yeah. So yeah, it's been some of both. It's been an adventure.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. Even the painful parts. I think so many folks, and we should talk about these things when we suffer as a consequence, and ultimately these broken friendships and these familial issues, sometimes broken families as a consequence of supporting
Mhm.
Donald Trump and what he meant for the country, what he meant for Western civilization. It's at its root. It's caused by anti-white ideology. You had
Mhm.
families. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that where they were both Republican voters for their whole lives. And then Trump comes along and they discover that one of them was an economic Republican. They like to vote Republican because of economic policies, but they
Mhm.
hated white race. They wanted bad things to happen to the white race. And then the other partner, could you imagine you're married to somebody, you think you know them? Then or you're getting married or long-term relationship, and then you find out, and the other partner says, "Wait, no, I don't want victimization of white people anymore," and that's what Trump meant for me.
Mhm.
And then they end up going their separate ways. So we see this so much with anti-whiteism that it absolutely destroys family relationships. And the only way that family relationships and friendships are preserved in the face of anti-whiteism is when victims, white people, decide that they're just going to put up with it. They're just going to be quiet at the dinner table. They're just going to be like, well, you can, yes, I understand. I'm just going to shut up for the good of the family. But that time has got to be past because things are just getting worse and worse. But
Yeah.
what are some of the things that initially, when Trump first came out, what were you first interested in? What got you? What subject matter really drew you initially?
There was that what's it called? Was it like North Carolina? I think there was a rally called Unite the Right, and
Oh yeah.
there was, they were saying it was a bunch of white supremacists. Maybe some of them were like actually hateful people. I'm not really sure, but I actually got really angry about that because I saw he said find people on both sides. I was like, how could he say that? And then
Wow.
I saw his whole speech. How there's specific people who he's talking about. On each side he was being kind of nuanced. Um, yeah, and I started appreciating him. Like I saw him making a lot of positive changes in the country, like with the economy and peace with other countries and stuff like that. Seems like a pretty good thing overall.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I actually made a video couple years ago about basically all the BLM stuff and how I was like, when is this going to end? When can we be at peace with each other? How can it end? And I just like shared some facts about there's higher crime rates in the black population a lot of the time for whatever reason. It just is what it is. It's the stats that you can look up.
Wow.
And like my sister went crazy saying that I'm a racist and all this stuff. Even though I had black friends who I like did a YouTube channel with and stuff who agreed with me. So that's the kind of thing that happens.
Yeah, it is the kind of thing that happens. I mean, when you speak out against this anti-white orthodoxy, then folks will come, and even in the slightest way, even unintentionally, people will come after you and they will call you. Essentially, their anti-white slur "racist" means demonic. It means you're the most immoral thing whatsoever, and in any way
Mm-hmm.
getting in the way of victimizing white people, which is blaming white people for everything, etc., then that immediately warrants for them the charge of being demonic. You're just the most immoral person to ever live, which of course means that to be moral, you have to victimize white people, which is an insane proposition. And this is why we have to recognize what anti-whiteism is. We have to call it out for what it is. So that's interesting. So it was really like in the beginning, it was some economics and racial issues. You mentioned Charlottesville, and that was actually you close, Virginia, not North Carolina, but close. They're actually
Yeah.
called. Somebody told me one time that they're called
Okay.
in the rest of the country they call them the mirror states or something like this. I'm from Virginia. I never heard that, but it's interesting because if you were to flop Virginia over on top of North Carolina, they look kind of the same. So I get it. I get it. Folks, I just want to mention if you have any questions for me or
Interesting.
Anna, please tag me as No White Guilt. and then I'll be able to share those. And of course, all of the normal options are up for financially gifting, and I will read, of course, all of those. And thank you all for being here. Please share the URL and like the stream wide and possible. Bless you all. James is here. Matt is here. Great to see you all. Where did it, or what were you going to say something else about that, about what happened with Charlottesville, or any of the other issues initially with Trump? Okay. Where did you go after that? Because I noticed that you have some other interests as well on your channels that are a little bit broader and move away from the racial issue.
Yeah. So what was the question? I think you were
Well, I
breaking up
mean,
a little bit.
oh, I'm sorry about that. No problem repeating.
Okay.
Any issues that after you initially with Trump and you were interested in some of the economic things, peace with people, other nations around the world, where did you move from there? What topics interested you next? And I guess where did you then find your passion for streaming?
Yeah. One of my biggest things is I'm pro-life. So anytime stuff happens with like the abortion debate, I'm feeling pretty passionate about that, especially these days. It's like legal up to birth in some places, and it's heartbreaking, especially because I'm a mother myself. We have a son who's almost a year old. So I always speak out on that, and I get, I've gotten death threats for being pro-life, which is just so ironic. Yeah.
Yeah.
The final one is pretty extreme sometimes. And something else.
Really is. That's a well, how did you feel about the Supreme Court decision? Were you elated?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. You just have to wonder though if it's just like another way to pit the country against each other, though, like to make half of the country angry, like if the people in charge are like really care, or if they're just doing it to divide and conquer. That's a big thing I talk about a lot, is the whole divide and conquer thing that I see, and how we overcome it just by choosing to be peaceable with each other and choosing not to fight and argue, but just to have mature adult conversations, which it can be difficult for me. I try.
Can be difficult for you. I think it's a challenge for everybody, but yeah, especially with these, these radical, these anti-whites, they call themselves various names. They'll call themselves pro-choice. They'll call themselves liberals. I mean, can you believe that? They'll call themselves progressive. Nothing progressive about it. But of course, they are totally intolerant of any opinion at variance with their ideology. So it makes conversation, and obviously you ended up getting a death threat as a consequence. Have you participated? You've done videos on that. Have you participated in any rallies, pro-life rallies?
No, unfortunately. I did go to one that was against the masking, like a year or so ago, about trying to have freedom to not have to wear masks in the schools. That was really cool. That was another thing I was talking about a lot. It just kind of has passed. It's kind of more in the past now, thankfully. I just remembered though, I was gonna say, I started waking up to the whole anti-white agenda like around 2017, I think. I actually met somebody who was like really like white nationalist, like they didn't want non-white people in the country very much at all, which I don't totally agree with, but they taught me some things that I didn't know before, like that Africa sold slaves. I didn't even know that until a few years ago. Like I thought we went over there and kidnapped them. So I just like learned some truths about the world that opened my mind. And then I started like really seeing it in the media, how everybody was talking about what white people can do better, all the problems with white people. And I realized how kind of reminded me of the abusive relationship that I had been in the past, like constantly being told how problematic I am, how nobody would really like me if they really knew who I really was. And that made me really upset about it. Like, I don't want that being done on a mass scale, and like being congratulated by the mainstream media and stuff like that just really made me unhappy. So I wanted to speak out against that.
Well, good on you for that. It shows good character. It shows courage and intelligence to be able to pick up what you see in front of you, even a challenge that big, and say, you know, this is wrong. I want to ask you about the period of the masking. I guess we could call it, looking back, and thank God it is gone. But before I do that, your child is a little boy. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
congratulations. And have you thought about how much this anti-whitism, this anti-white ideology demonizes white males, and what that might mean for him? Do you feel more encouraged, emboldened to challenge this in the world so that he lives a better life than white males do today?
Yeah, that's actually something I had thought about. Like, he's a white male, and they're kind of like the biggest target in at least the Western world these days.
Yeah.
Like, it's considered okay to discriminate against them and stuff. So it is a little bit worrisome. We just want to raise him to be, strong and not ashamed of who he is.
Yeah. Yeah,
Of course, to be
absolutely.
loving, but just be able to stand up for himself.
Yeah, precisely. And that's one of the things that I'm so happy we're having the success that we're having here, and drawing wonderful people like yourself, because that's our message. We have nothing to be ashamed of. We have no white guilt. That's a very radical thing to say in a society and a time where white people are supposed to, it's the moral thing for white people to feel white guilt, for white people to suffer. So to say that we have no white guilt is a really radical, revolutionary thing to say. Our white little boys need to grow up feeling proud about themselves, feeling proud about our history, and the idea that being proud about ourselves and our history somehow harms other groups is right out of the anti-white narrative. And teaching that is the problem. That's the problem. Teaching that white well-being is only achievable by victimizing non-white people, that's the problem. So we have, as you know, I mean, we have plenty of non-white people that have come to and are coming to the work that we're doing here against anti-whitism, because they can see this is immoral, and ultimately it's going to destroy Western civilization. So good on you. Let me ask you about the masking. What was that like for you? What kind of videos did you make then? I mean, that was a really scary time with the government. What was it like in your area?
It was kind of scary because, like, I didn't want to go along with it, and a lot of the time I just wore it so that I could go to the grocery store or whatever without, like, because if I didn't wear one in the grocery store, I felt like slightly panicked, because we had, like, you could get a fine or even go to jail for like 6 months here in California. So it's just crazy. And there was a couple times I would, like, not wear one in the grocery store, take a picture and post it, like, look, stand up for your rights as a human being or whatever. But it was like my heart was racing because they would be right on you, like, yelling at you, refusing service. Like, people were pretty serious about it in my liberal city. And I also, I found, like, articles about people dying of asphyxiation and stuff from wearing it in their closed-in car, and speech delays in children. Like, it hurts them, I think, emotionally also, because they can't see the facial expressions and, like, learn about how your facial expression affects, like, what what you're saying, like, how you're meaning it, your emotions, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
I think
for
the
their development.
ramifications, right? The ramifications of that, it's going to be many years. They're going to be discovering exactly how much damage that
Yeah.
did to children. They don't know language yet. Of course, they have to look at your facial features, and that's how they read. That's how they identify. It's something that is very human. For us to be able to look at the face and read so much out of the face. We can even look, of course, we look at our animals, like dogs, for example, that we've had with us so long, and our ability to read their faces, and breeding them the way we have has resulted in them, to a degree, being able to read our faces. It's really kind of a magical thing. But all that was taken away with the mask, and there were these infections that were getting started. People were wearing masks for long periods of time, and they were growing mold or whatever it was, and you simply could not talk about these things at that time. And of course, if the World Health Organization or the CDC decides to say again that no, it was the best thing ever in the world to wear a mask, then I will agree with them. So whatever they say, I will happily agree with them. But for now, they seem to be rolling it back. They do have, and I'll ask you this, and of course we have to walk carefully around this, and we're gonna talk about the university Auburn in just a moment, folks. And if you have questions about that, please tag me with those. But they then rolled out this vaccine, and it was a something that recently they were at UN. I don't know which particular drug company it was that said something along the lines. And folks, please look this up to make sure I'm remembering it accurately. But something along the lines, the representative said that there had been no testing to prove that it was going to be successful against the infection, the virus. And please check it out to make sure that I'm not remembering it incorrectly. But what was that like for you? Are you do you try to stay away from vaccines, or are you ardent supporter of vaccines? How do you feel about that? And when it was first rolled out, what was going on? And did you make videos about that?
I actually made like short documentaries, like a couple of them that were like 20-something minutes long, about all the issues that I found with it. It seems like it's doing a lot more harm than good. Like, I think there was negative intention behind it, and that's actually why I'm not sure about Trump anymore, because he was involved in it. He seemed good overall when he's in office, but then that has made me wonder. Yeah, I'd consider myself more just like an independent now, like not Republican or Democrat, maybe libertarian if I had to label myself. Yeah, there's probably plenty I could say, but I don't know what we can say here.
Well, I mean, we can give our opinions, and there are a lot of people who are of the opinion now that the vaccine or vaccines are dangerous, and we can't speak as medical professionals, but I think the CDC said something about shots for children shouldn't be necessary, shouldn't be given. And again, folks should look into that to make sure that I'm recalling it accurately. It could be wrong. But I think we all know, so we all have this anecdotal evidence. We all know people, or at least a person, that are like immediately related to us or right beside us, or friend of ours, or just one click away, their friend or whatever, who got a vaccine and then ended up suffering some sort of negative consequence as a result of the vaccine, of taking the vaccine, or at least they believe, I should say, they believe it was a result of taking the vaccine, that they had this injury, or they even passed. And I know for me, as we wait for Anna to reconnect, I know for me that it's more than a handful. It's more than a handful of people who have, and I was just saying, it's for me, I know more than a handful of people directly, or I know the person who knows the person directly, who had some sort of injury they attribute to the vaccine, accurate or inaccurately, or died shortly thereafter. And who knows whether it was the cause or not. But did you have the same experience? Do you know people, or do you know people who have friends or family who believe that the vaccine injured them?
Yeah, I can think of at least one woman offhand who goes to my church. I just spoke to her recently. She said she always had everything was fine with her lungs whenever she got them checked, and then after she got the vaccine or got the booster, I think she only got like one or two altogether. The scans were looking cloudy, and it was like something that had never been there before, so it seemed related. And I know I've had a couple family members die who I'm pretty sure got it. Can't make a connection for sure, but there's just so many examples all over the internet of people having issues very shortly after, or just so many issues all at once, like in higher volume than it has ever been before. It's pretty concerning.
Yes, it's very concerning. And I think, I tried to. I'm a pretty like rational guy. It's reason, logic, and evidence for me all the way. And so when we first started hearing the news about COVID, and I actually had to travel to the UK right at the very beginning when all of those videos were coming out of China, which obviously now were faked, or they were, if they weren't faked, they were taken from something, maybe I don't know, like military preparedness or government preparedness for disease, and so they had actors and they were playing it out to train people. I don't know, but all those videos were coming out of people just like falling over dead, and they were saying that's what COVID did. So I took precautions then. Like I was ahead of everybody. I was the first guy at my gyms to have a mask on at the gym. The government was saying that the mask could help, and I thought, I thought about it. Can the mask? Well, the doctors wear masks. Maybe so. It couldn't hurt for me to wear it when I'm in these places. When I went to the UK, I actually had done research on top of the knowledge I already had about viruses, about how it can get into your eyes if it's airborne, and I already was keen on heavy sanitizing as a result of viruses contact being infected by contact on surfaces. So I was geared up for my trip there and back. Didn't know. Went ahead though. I mean, on my journey through the airports and on the plane, which by the way were empty. It was beautiful. When does that happen? The people working there were like, "How are you doing this? Why are you paying for flying?" But it was fantastic. But in those environments, I was geared up. But when I was at the conference where there were 200 people, didn't have anything on there, obviously, and shaking hands and hugging people. But I then eventually did contract, not during that trip, but later, COVID, at least testing positive by the tests that are available for COVID several times now. And I know folks, Greg Kate got very, very ill from COVID, and as a consequence of having COVID. So, but that was COVID in the beginning, and every virus in the beginning is strong compared to what it becomes. It attenuates over time. And this one seems, I'm not a professional, I don't know, but it seems to have attenuated. Like people get it, they don't even know they have it. People get it, and they get a little fever for a day or two, and but this vaccine has persisted. And now I think everybody knows, far more folks who think that vaccine has injured them, right or wrong, whether they're accurate or not, than COVID.
Yeah.
And there's still, I assume in your videos, that's one of the kind of things that you've talked about.
Yeah. The symptoms that I had always seen of what COVID were like literally the same as a cold or flu. And some people, got it worse than others, depending on, their age, or like, I think obesity could make it worse, different things like that. So I'm not saying it's no big deal for anybody ever, but
Yeah.
I don't know personally of anybody who died from it. I've heard countless stories of doctors saying that people died from it, but they actually had like cancer or something, but they didn't even mention the cancer is the cause of death, and lots of things like that. So it does seem like the vaccine injuries seem to be worse than the COVID injuries.
Yeah, I hope they can get it ironed out and decide.
Yeah.
I understand that. Was it while the US was occupied with this Chinese balloon that they're saying, the spy balloon, the child's balloon, or whatever that was supposed to be, that the CDC, I don't know if this is right or not, and perhaps you can educate me on this, that they added the vaccine to the children's vaccine requirements? Is it for school? Is that right? Or did I hear that wrong? Or does anybody know in the live chat?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know like a few months ago, I made a video about somebody in Canada who was talking about he sells caskets, and the vaccine had just become available for children. And so a lot of people were doing it, and the sales of child-sized caskets like increased more than they ever had. So there seemed to be a connection.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like all of North America, so the United States and Canada.
Well, I hope that was inaccurate information. Ask the CDC and the Canadian government, folks, please. That is a really terrible thing. I
Yeah.
can't imagine giving a child a vaccine for something that they were saying, even as I recall, perhaps my memory's wrong on this, but in the very beginning, they were like, kids are fine.
Yeah.
The CDC was saying this, but then give them this vaccine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, I remember when the whole COVID thing first started, 2020, I had a friend who was a nurse, worked in emergency room, and she was talking about, like, it's so amazing, no kids are getting it, like, thank God. So, yeah, it's coming from a nurse, that was the case.
Yeah, really, really scary, really scary. And this is what happens when you have a government that clearly does not care about the founding stock of this country. You see the same thing across the West. They just clearly don't care whatsoever about the founding stock of these Western countries. It's just like, well, whatever. They can make a dollar. If they can victimize us, it doesn't matter. Did you get an opportunity to take a look at this story of out of Auburn, where the Black Student Union actually put together, or it's claimed, I think they might be denying it now, I don't know, or 6 days ago, I think they were denying it. I don't know if they're still denying it. Maybe evidence came out that proves it. And because I don't see any more stories about that. But this Auburn campus newspaper, the Plainsman, gives Black Student Union a pass while white racial slurs, no way, shape, or form are the same as using a racial slur on a non-white person. Now, of course, we object to all racial slurs. But did you get a chance to look at this at all, or do you have any opinions on it?
Yeah, I looked at it. I feel like I had seen a list like that before, like a couple months ago at least. I don't know if there's like new stuff on it now or what, but I'd seen like a lot of those same slurs before. And it's not surprising. Like, it's just the way things have been. I think they think that it's like a way of like evening the score because of slavery. You know, like white people deserve to have some negative repercussions, even though we have nothing to do with the slavery, which is evil in itself. Like, you know, punishing people for things they didn't do, and maybe their individual ancestors didn't even do. Like, I don't know if I did anything. At any point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're pointing out, this is a brilliant point that you're making. And that is essentially you're alluding to the fact that we're living under this story, this story of slavery, that slavery is something that white people did. Nobody else did that on planet Earth. And since it's a story, it never changes. So every succeeding generation of white people have to make amends for, and have to be victimized for this story, for these claims from the past. It never gets better. You can never make amends. That's why we have the 9 words in the Go Free method, which is atonement cannot be made for a grievance never committed. And so we can't ever make up to people who didn't suffer what we didn't do. And it's just it's a narrative to victimize us, and it's an excuse to victimize us.
And it's just continuing the fighting. Like, it's not solving anything. It's just making people unhappy, miserable, and like, when you're unhappy and miserable, you're not healthy at all, because, you know, increasing the cortisol affects your physical health. This could technically potentially kill people, you know, if they focus too much on negativity and anger all the time.
Perfectly.
Yeah, but I saw what some of the slurs were. Thank you. I looked at what some of their slurs that they came up with were, and it honestly just makes me laugh, because it sounds like little kids. Yes, they should just be spending their time on something productive.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's like junior high or elementary kids, and these are university students at Auburn. So this is not like some You know, this is a big time school. They're going to go out into the world with big time degrees that will get them six-figure jobs right away when they get out into the workforce. And this is the kind of thing that they spend their idle time doing, hating on the white. And make no mistake, I mean, this is total hatred of the white race, and to be creating giant lists of slurs. And we know very well that, and that's why this is a hush crime. Because if this were reversed, if this were the white student union, which they don't even allow because white people have been dehumanized and they can be victimized. But if there was a white student union, if there were just two white kids, if there was just one white young adult at a university who created a list 7 pages long of 250 slurs for non-white races, the whole country would know. They would report about it in the UK and Canada and elsewhere. And they would ruin that person's life or people's lives. They would never be able to get the job they deserve and worked for. But instead here, since it's a hush crime, this is brushed off. Oh, it's no big deal. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter how much that's what we need to remember when they try to say that it doesn't rise to the same level of injury or something. We need to remember it's a justification to injure us. It's a justification to injure the people we love. I mean, Anna, think about this. Today they have 250 slurs for white people. How many slurs will they have for white people when your little boy gets to college age? I mean, this is really a wretched and scary thing.
Yeah. And I was also thinking, like, you know, people talk about school shooters a lot, and obviously that's a problem, but they tend to go crazy and act out in that way because they were bullied and nobody liked them, and, you know, everybody put them down. So what is this going to cause potentially, you know?
Oh my, perfect point. I love it. Exactly. Like the little boy I just tweeted about, the white little boy who's waiting outside of the school bus in front of the school to board the school buses to go home. And the anti-white young man, more than twice the size of the little boy, the anti-white young man picks him up and body slams him on the concrete, to the jeers and laughter of numerous other anti-white students. Might he grow up to do something horrible? Maybe. When you're terrorized, when you're psychologically terrorized, bad things happen to those people. I mean, we've been browbeaten our whole lives with how non-white children, if they're not coddled, if they're not given freedom from responsibility, if they're not given preferential treatment, then that's the reason why they end up doing bad things out in the world. That's the reason why they, etc. And then in the same breath, anti-whites will tell you, oh, well, just because white children are terrorized by their school bus, in their schools, they're beaten, they're browbeaten by their teachers, they're told that they carry an evil seed inside of them. That's no big deal. They're going to turn out just fine. And whatever that fine is miserable, which makes anti-whites very happy about that. I'll just say, it says here, editorial board at Auburn University primary campus newspaper released an opinion piece in response to the list of white racial slurs leaked from a group message titled AU Connect. 1819 News reported on the leaked list earlier this month. We spoke to Auburn student Jaden Hurd, who initially received the list, as well as several screenshots of the group chat from a member of Auburn's Black Student Union, BSU. The individual claimed that the group that contained current members and alumni of the BSU and even members of the BSU executive committee, so the people in charge. Further, he claimed the whistleblower said that the chat had either been deleted or so as soon as they found out they were caught doing this, they decided to, oh, well, we'll just get rid of this. No big deal. But too late. It's already made it to the public, and we can see. So if this is the kind of conversation that's happening in private, you know, Anna, when we watch we'll get right back to you and what you covered just a moment. I just wanted to add this in and get your thoughts on it. When we watch entertainment in the West, we are regularly presented with non-white people in their private moments in the Western world, and they're crying Their hearts are broken. They're being wrongly put upon. The world is against them. It's so hard to be non-white in the world. And when they're alone together and we see them in entertainment media, they're crying, they're talking to each other and crying about how hard life is to be non-white, how bad it is for white people to be oppressing them and persecuting them and exploiting them all the time. And then in the real world, we see that in private, they're hating on the white race. You know, obviously the anti-whites, not good non-white people, obviously the anti-white ones are
Yeah.
hating on the white race, and they're making giant lists of 250 anti-white slurs. What do you have to say about the difference between entertainment and what's depicted there about what's going on in the world, and then what we end up seeing in the real world by groups like this Black Student Union at Auburn?
Well, that's an example of what, people refer to as the matrix that we live in. Like the media is just not reality at all. It's what they want us to think in our heads so that we act in a certain way. And a lot of the time it causes us to fight with each other. And when we're distracted fighting with each other, we're just like destroying ourselves, so they don't even have to destroy us themselves. Like the people in charge, the social engineers, you might call them, don't have to directly destroy us because we'll do it to each other and we'll be distracted from all the big bad things they're doing in the background. So you have to rise above that and, choose peace and love.
Yeah. Amen. Amen to that. Well, I know you're talking about stress earlier. I know that you are very interested in health, and I saw that you had a video on the avian flu. And what do you have to say? What do you cover when it comes to our health? We're just talking right now about our emotional health and what's happening to the white population when they're subjected to this sort of thing, and it causes the stress levels, cortisol levels that are damaging to health. I wonder if you might start there and then maybe just go wherever you want with health and what you cover on your channel.
Well, yeah, back when I was in college, like in my 20s, I did like psychology, sociology, all that kind of stuff, and I learned about like the mind-body connection. And when I was in therapy for having PTSD, and so I can see how your emotions and your physical health are connected. Like I can feel it for myself when I'm stressed out or something up, my body will be more tense, or I'll have like a stomach ache, or so it's all connected to each other. And it's not something I've like really focused on my channel, but I just like bring it up here and there naturally. But yeah, like all the chaos in the world doesn't help, and I think a lot of it is, they're trying to make it happen because a small minority of people want to have total control and want to have like as many resources as they can for themselves. And my hope just lies in my salvation from Jesus, and that I'll go to heaven one day, personally. Like, not that we should just like give up here, and not like I think we should resist evil until the end, but I'm just glad that I have hope for a good eternity.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you find in the videos you make and the research you do on health and the potential intentional adverse effects on the population's health, do you find that that Christianity, Jesus Christ is a real strength to you as you go through that material?
Yeah, like it's given me peace despite all sorts of negative situations I've gone through in my life. I was suicidal at one point, and it was right when I decided to give my life back to Jesus, because I was raised that way. That night I felt this joy that it was supernatural, because I was suicidal at the time and I was doing terribly, and that night I was smiling. I was happy to pray for the guy who had abused me, hoping that he can come to God. So that's just supernatural to me. And I actually just made a video about other supernatural experiences that I've had that I just don't know how to explain any other way. So that's up on my channel right now.
Well, maybe tell us a little bit about that video and introduce it to folks and some of these experiences you've had. That's sounds really interesting.
So just dealing with PTSD, I would have like extreme anxiety a lot of the time, or so I was going through, there's this one time I had to move out of the place I was staying with roommates because the guy was angry drunk, and I just couldn't be around that. And so I was living with my sister in a small place with her family, as she had a few kids and her husband, and I was working 3 part-time jobs to get by. I had to take the bus, and I was just feeling really stressed out and really lonely because I was like 30 years old and single, and just didn't know where my life was going. So I was just laying there at night in the little like sleeping bag under my niece's bunk bed, and I was like, God, just please let me feel your presence so that I can know that at least you're there, and like I want to experience more of the intimacy that God talks about wanting to have with. And just like all of a sudden I felt this really incredible, powerful presence, like kind of like if you feel like someone's standing behind you but you can't see them, but like multiplied by like at least 100. And it was so
Wow.
powerful. I was like taken aback and startled and was like, wow, I can't handle this, too powerful. But it was positive. And then it went away. And then other times it's been like a similar thing, but it was like I felt like somebody was giving me a hug, and it was right after I prayed to God for comfort or peace in the midst of anxiety. One time I even had a vision when I had a couple visions actually of
Well,
some people would call it a hallucination, but I wasn't on anything the first time. um, yeah, so
well, that's fascinating.
it's because yeah, it just helped to keep my faith secure, because it's easy to doubt and waver sometimes with all the different input you get
Yes. Well,
about different
yeah.
possibilities, you know.
Especially, yeah, in this world that we're facing, it's like every time we turn around, there's something else crazy going on in the world, in our immediate lives and beyond our immediate lives. So it's really challenging. Have you, since you, I guess, was there a period where your diet, for example, was one thing, and then you improved your diet, and did that sort of decision making, did that coincide as well with going back to Christianity and just being a better you?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Okay, no worries. So what I was saying was, when you
Yeah.
decided to go back to Christianity, did you also improve your diet to be a better you? And then what were there outcomes? Could you tell in your health and in your well-being that after improving your diet, things had changed for you as well? Or I'm probably still
Let
breaking
me
up
add
because
something about improving my diet. I don't.
yeah. Yeah, did
Yeah,
was there a
I don't
period
know.
you improved your diet? If we maybe
Sorry,
if
one
I
more time.
do it's okay. I'm gonna close my camera for a moment to send less information to your phone, and maybe I'll be clearer. Did you improve your diet at some point? Did that coincide with returning to Christianity and being a better you? And did you have positive outcome from changing or improving your diet?
Hmm, interesting. I have done that at times, but I didn't. Well, I guess you could somewhat say I associated it with Christianity, because the Bible talks about being a good steward of what you have, what you're given. So to me, that's, you know, everything, your body included. So yeah, that actually was inspiration for me to take better care of myself, just in general, in like every way. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Um, I've even put that into consideration as to whether or not I was going to use marijuana, since it's been legal here. Um, you know, I thought, you know,
Mm.
is that honoring my body or not to do that? So
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
So since it's legal where you are,
Mhm.
have you been have you been using for some time, and now you're making the decision or questioning whether or
Um,
not?
no, like I used to, and I haven't in like probably at least a year or something. I stopped actually a few weeks before I found out that I was pregnant, so that was good timing. I was just kind of
Ah,
like convinced, because also the Bible talks about having a sound mind, being sober and vigilant. So like I just couldn't argue that it kind of takes away from that, even though you can adjust how much it does. Like, I would always try to
Right.
make excuses because I enjoyed it, but
Right.
yeah, you can't really argue with it. It makes you not sober.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean,
Mm.
I think that's I think that's actually no
Yeah.
question there. Although
Yeah.
I've heard people, while very high, try to make excuses about how they're not actually they're totally sober, there's nothing wrong with them. As you then watch
Yeah.
them for, like, 15 minutes, try to put a sentence together, you're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
yep, you're doing
Yeah.
good."
Yeah, been there pretty much.
Well, but we have about 5 minutes left or so. So folks, if
Mm.
you have any questions or comments or financial gifts, please get them in. Make sure you tag me and I will get to those. Have you in your research found anything that you would call a superfood that you think that has benefited you the most, or have you read that other people have really benefited from?
Blueberries always comes to mind. That's something I've always heard. But for me personally, turmeric is helpful because I have
Mm.
chronic pain and it helps to reduce inflammation. Also, raw garlic. It's like an antibiotic. So yeah, those two. I was There's like topical uses for honey and aloe vera to help with burns and cuts.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah. So the
Yeah.
ginger is good for like a upset stomach. My mom taught me that when I was a kid. Yeah, there's all kinds of good things.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, I think, some of those I recognize, and other ones I might have to investigate as well. And I have to, since this is really affecting me, the prices of eggs.
Yeah.
What in the world is going on? Why are my eggs like $20 a carton? What's going on with the avian flu?
Um, I talked to a bunch of people who are actually farmers, and it seems like all the people who have like their personal, like smaller farms where they let their chickens be free range don't really have any issues with avian flu. Seems to be like the big factories where they don't have as good of conditions and they give them antibiotics and stuff, like they're the ones who are getting sick and the chicken's dying. Well, also like if one chicken is test positive, they have to like kill all of them. So that's part of it also.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. So then it would be at these like big agro farms
Yeah.
that's where the problem is.
Thousands of chickens being killed at one time because one or two had it.
Right. Wow. Boy, that just seems, pun intended, overkill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, you gotta kill the whole it sounds like thousands and thousands would end up being killed off
Yeah.
if they found then just a couple of chickens or maybe even 1 chicken?
Yeah. And also another interesting aspect is that Bill Gates has donated money to developing vegan eggs, all in the midst of this happening. So it's interesting parallel.
What is that?
It's I saw it in my grocery store. It's like a bottle of liquid. It's plants, but it's supposed to like cook up like the same type of consistency as eggs. It's a vegan alternative. And so I
Oh,
think they're
no.
trying to push people towards that. And eggs are really good for you, good for your health. So yeah,
Oh, absolutely no. There's just no thank you. Eggs are
yeah.
I eat, it feels like thousands a year, of eggs. I love
Mm,
them. Uh, my health improved, uh, wonderfully. The more eggs I eat, the healthier I am. And of course, we've seen all these
that's cool.
campaigns. Yeah, we've seen all these campaigns that say, "Oh no, eggs and bacon, a terrible thing to have." My experience is the exact opposite. They are
Mm,
fantastic. They're delicious, and you feel great.
yeah.
So I have you seen this where they're making this, like, artificial now I know I guess vegan burgers have been around for a long time. I think I remember them even back in the Stone Age when I was young, but they're doing something new, like with 3D printed vegan burgers and things like this. Have you heard about these
Mm.
things?
I don't know about the burgers, but I did see something about eggs where they're like creating like this synthetic shell and everything in like a lab. I saw it on Twitter and I couldn't really find it again, but yeah, I saw something about that. It's like even
Wow.
beyond just the plant alternative. It's a full on new creation. Yeah.
I'm I'm so sure that whatever they're going to put in and create in a lab is gonna be so much better than
Yeah.
absolute no thank you. They can eat that though.
Yeah.
I'll sit and watch, see what the outcome is.
Yeah. Let them be the lab rats.
Yeah, precisely. What do you think? I got one more question, and we're definitely going to have you back again in the future. We love it, and we love seeing you in the live chat. And before we let Anna go, folks, she's gonna give her contact information again and where you can find her, where you can follow her. Please, everybody, head over there and sub and click the bell so that you can know when she creates a new video or goes live. I want to ask final question from me, at least, and then I'll see if there is anybody else who has any questions or not. But we've been pretty thorough though. But what do you think is one of the biggest threats right now to the country or the population, or at least a threat that you've had your thoughts on recently?
It seems like probably all the toxic waste spills that have been happening, and that's what my next video is going to be about. I need to research that. I know there's been like several different states where trains have derailed and like burst open, and like all this toxic waste came out that's infecting the air and the water, or at least the water. That's really concerning to me because I'm not sure what you do about that long term. You know, like you need water to survive. So yeah, that seems pretty concerning.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
Ohio train derailment and the
Mhm.
plume of there's just this poison or whatever going into the air. And of course, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know exactly what's going on, and just obey and agree with the CDC, whatever they say, or the federal government
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
state government of Ohio and Pennsylvania. Whatever they say is what I support and endorse. Otherwise, we're just speculating on this channel. We're just
Yeah.
sharing opinions, and sometimes it's just comedy.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out that over on D Live, we have Spartan has donated to, let's see, donated the cryptocurrency that they have there in the form of one ice cream cone and one lemon. So we want to thank Spartan for both of those and really appreciate it. Let me check over here. Okay, I think we are, and one more place to check. Okay, yep, looks like we didn't miss anybody in those locations. Let me check over here on the live chat. And it looks like Elaine Sabatino is here. She says she loves eggs and bacon. Well, we get along real well, so no wonder. That's the basis of our great relationship, Elaine. We both love. Looks like Archangel says milk is a superfood. He says it is bulking food of the gods. Although I don't drink milk from a cow, my friend. I have in the past, but I got away from it because of the hormones that are meant for calves. And I know that a lot of people do like it though. Let's see. Time traveler, anti-white slurs are worse because they justify harm rather than just being a nasty joke. Well, that's actually true. That's I have seen that as well used as the justification, which is the reverse. You don't see it being able to be used for justification. I fit and healthy at any age. Great to see you, good brother. And I don't know the answer to that question, my friend. And what else do we have here? Nancy Drew is with us. Great to see you, dear lady. And she says she remembers very well when I got all prepared for that trip. And we didn't know all that much about COVID, except that people were falling over dead on all the videos. Yeah, that was a little bit. I thought to myself, people were like, I remember the folks at the conference. They were like, "Are you still going to come?" And I thought, my ancestors have put up with horrible things. They unbelievably horrible things. So I can fly in an airplane and I can take my steps the best I can to remain healthy. And it worked out fine for me. But okay, I think we got everybody here. Anna, you've been wonderful. God bless you. I love probably the music of your little baby boy, little son of the West in the background is just wonderful. That's put a smile on my face the whole stream long. Will you please tell folks where they can find you and how they can follow you.
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube as Anna Speaks Out, as you know, my title here is. Also on Twitter as that same handle. Instagram is My Thoughts and Songs. And I'm on Rumble as My Thoughts and Songs. That's pretty much the main stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it's been wonderful to have a conversation with you today, Anna. And folks, please do all those platforms, if you're on them, whichever ones you're on, make sure you go over it. Only take a second, follow Anna. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more exciting things from her in her coming videos and live streams. We expect a lot of good from her. It's a great conversation, Anna, and we will have you back very soon.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye.
I want you to reach out in love. I want you to let those brothers and sisters around the base, let them know that even though the anti-whites wield so much power, that we are winning every contest with them, and that it's only a matter of time. Tell them that they can be more than they are. Tell them that they can stand up for Western kind, Western civilization, and everyone who lives in Western civilization of all immutable characteristics. Tell them that there's a way that they can stand up for it in love, with the moral high ground. Be gentle with them at first. Coming out of a story that you thought was the real world is one of the hardest things that folks can do. If you go there with a true spirit and a true heart, with humility, you're going to win more souls than you'll ever turn away. And in the end, all of that will redound to the glory of our people and the reclamation of our destiny.